What's going on, Elite Builders Nation? I'm here with a rock star with EXP, Mr. Will Higgins. He just gave a talk. Appreciated the talk, brother.
Oh, of course, man.
And you're out there building as well. So I'm curious, like, what were some main takeaways from this event so far for you?
Yeah, man, the biggest takeaway was probably day 2. There was a lady that was about to have surgery, and she was writing an offer because she hadn't built anything. She was just selling. She was writing an offer on the bed before she had surgery because if she didn't close that deal, she wouldn't be able to pay for the surgery.
I've been here 2.5 years, and I think that I've gotten 10 years closer to my goals. So my real estate goals, my life goals, this model has helped me get 10 years ahead.
And that's so interesting, man, because what I'm aware of is I missed my son's first Halloween because I was on a listing appointment.
Yep.
Didn't get the listing. Didn't get the listing, right? And this vehicle provides people an opportunity, not just through collaboration to earn more in commissions. I know you said you doubled your production once you joined EXP because of that collaboration, but it also gives you the opportunity with equity and this rev share thing where you can spend more time with your family. In fact, you mentioned that you haven't missed one of your boys.
Haven't missed anything.
I didn't have to sell real estate. I got to sell real estate. And there's a huge difference, guys. But I've been able to do business my way, the way I want to do it, right? You see that little guy right there? I haven't missed a game in 2 years. I haven't missed a game in 2 years. And you don't have to either. For my business, guys, I get to make YouTube videos. That's my business.
How many times have you guys hurried up and wrote an offer, hurried up and showed a home, and then that client ghosts you after, right? I don't have to do any of that now. You know what? They work on, if we're going to see that house, it'll be on my time when it works, when I'm working.
I love that, man. That's what I'm talking about. So it's 100 plus model.
Exactly.
That's what's up. So what is one actionable step that you're going to take away and like implement right away?
Yeah, man, we're doing the action. We're doing the work, right? Just got to do more of it.
Yeah.
Just got to tell your story more. So I vow to tell my story more.
That's what's up. Elite Builders Coast to Coast.
Guys, you can catch me on Instagram at I'm Will Higgins or on YouTube at Will Higgins.
I'm teaching them how to do events. I'm not teaching them how to call agents. We just did our first gala. We had 150 people fly in, but we're doing a leadership retreat, which is basically this in the Dominican Republic. It's the blueprint. Like, it's leadership and duplications, how you can grow very fast. I met Drew, the operations guy for Brent. Like, we're going like the events route plus media. Yeah. So I want to learn how to do events at scale. Because when I was at Build, I realized I'm like, this is just like a lunch and learn.
On a bigger scale.
It's on a bigger scale.
Yeah, that's right. That's brilliant.
Yeah.
All like the top contractors in your group.
Yeah. And I got it from this idea. Well, 2 things. One is I read that book, which I'm sure you've read, Building an Empire.
Yes.
It's the blueprint.
Yeah.
And he doesn't talk about one thing, he talks about events. And I know that's how you do, like, it's leadership and duplications, how you can grow very fast. So with everybody in the organization, I'm teaching them how to do events. I'm not teaching them how to call agents. So we have, like last month, we had 7 or 8 events happen in the 274 group.
Love it.
But the goal is to continue to have leaders, locate the leaders, then equip them. So last year I flew out to 6 different people. Like you're doing, but I flew out to 6 different people and did their first lunch and learns with them and did the formal presentation on EXP. So I could show them how to do it.
That's powerful.
And then they can run with it.
Duplicate.
Yeah, duplicate. That's exactly right.
That's amazing. And you have the gym.
You have not?
Oh, but I'm trying to get them to do, they don't know the intention behind the event. It's like, oh, okay, yeah, I should do an event. But like,
Well, what I share with the team is events do 4 things. 1 is they train our current members. 2 is attraction, 3 is content, and 4 is culture. That's 4 things all at the same time.
dude, I want to come out to your one area.
Yeah, for sure. You know who we got to agree to speak at our next gala? Pace Morby. You know, the guy with the hats that have the little, I was on his podcast. He has millions of followers.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
I just see you and Ryan Pineda.
Yeah, I was on his podcast.
Yeah. Dude, how do you get close to that guy?
So him, I did his coaching program, which was super helpful, truthfully, on the media side. But I see you blowing up on media.
I don't have any coaching. I just have a couple guys just following me.
Are you monetizing it in any way other than attractions?
We're going to do some coaching right now, but...
Are you?
Yeah, I paid this guy, Brad Mangat, out of Vancouver. Apparently, his guys are doing like $100K a month in their coaching product.
Yeah.
And then once you have that going, then attraction is even easier.
It is.
I mean, you would know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's a virtuous cycle.
Yeah.
Once they get into that, because nobody has more kind of influence over someone than their coach. Speaks to them way more than a broker, way more than anybody else. But the deal with coaching is the problem is that it has time, it has location freedom. So me and you can do coaching calls here, but it doesn't have time freedom. I have to be there.
Yeah.
And that's the pain in the ass.
It's leverage, but it's not.
So it's like, it's cool until it isn't. So it's just like doing 100 deals is cool until it isn't. So,
Doing 200.
so
Jen. Hi. Gosh, you look great. Have you met Aaron before?
hello.
I don't think so.
Nice to meet you.
Jones?
Aaron. Pleasure.
Number one team in Ontario
Right
and in
now.
Canada.
We're
Awesome.
like in the race.
Yeah.
We're in the race, John.
So Aaron sells 200 homes as a solo agent out in Florida, and
Thank you.
275 in 18 months.
That's freaking
In
crazy.
revenue share, yeah.
I'm just following after you guys. Just trying to be like you when I grow up.
I don't know that you want to be like us. We're like slightly crazy.
Slightly off. That's okay. Yeah.
That's amazing. Good
Yeah.
for you.
Thank you.
You're slightly crazy.
No, he is nuts. So are you.
You know, we've all heard the penny doubled every day for a month. And like the end result of that is like if you double a penny every day for a month, it's like 5.3 million. What's crazy is if you tax that penny along the way and you're in like let's just say a 28% tax bracket, if you tax that penny every day 28%, instead of it being worth 5.3 million at the end of 30 days, it's worth 67,000.
Crazy, right?
It's like we can't earn more way out of that pit. So that was a super huge takeaway for me. And I'll share with you another takeaway, man, is like you're doing these events and I never did these events. Like when I got in and I started growing it started to go fast, and like we were just trying to keep our arms around it. You know, one of the things we say is we were building the plane as we were flying it. And we were trying to like provide the leadership and the structure and the coaching that everybody needed that was joining. And we just never made time to do these events, which is a takeaway for me because, you know, I think about like your business and your organization and where it's going to be in say 3 years from now. And dude, it like gives me goosebumps, man. I'm like super excited for you. But like, how cool is it that we're in a model where like I can be your biggest cheerleader and you can surpass anything I've done and we both benefit.
Yeah, and you actually want me to do that.
I want you to,
Yeah.
Which is like, you know, when you were saying earlier about, you know, Charlie Munger and be careful how you incentivize people, it took me about 90 days after joining EXP to realize this. But everything that I did prior to EXP was to incentivize people underneath me to basically be enslaved to need me. And I didn't think about it that way when I was going through my business. I'm like, hey, I want to help you be successful as an agent, but only successful underneath me.
Yeah.
And in this model, that goes out the window, and I can actually champion people to their highest levels of success, even if it's outside of me, above me, bigger than me. And that made my soul feel right. Like, I don't even know how to put it in words. It was like I said, it was like 90 days into this like EXP journey, and I'm like, wait a minute. I've been helping people only to help myself.
Yeah.
And now the best way I can help myself is to help people to the greatest extent that they want and can be helped.
Yeah, and I think it's a shift from playing a finite game to playing an infinite game.
Yeah.
Where I was on a text message recently, a DM, a broker, and I started to ask him some questions about his model and stuff, and he was like, well, you know, I make money off the agents, and you know, I'm like, well, what value do you actually add for that? And he was like, was that a loss? He's like, well, you know, I give him some leads and stuff, and like that's it. And I was like, oh. And then we get into this conversation about where it's evident in how he's communicating what his leadership style is, which is, you know, I want to keep people. What he actually said to me in a DM, John, like legitimately verbatim, was, I want them to do a good job. I'll reward them for doing a better job, but I never want them to think that they can become me.
Yeah.
That's what he actually said.
Yeah.
And what I said to him back is like, well, I'm like, you know, it's a king of the hill strategy. It's level 1 leadership, which is, you know, I'm the king of the hill, and if you start to rise up the hill, I'm going to knock you down. Mm-hmm. You know what he said back? He's like, yeah, you know, the king of the hill strategy is working, and I live a comfortable life.
Wow.
That's what he actually said. And I was like, dude, I'm telling you, it's flawed thinking. And then he asked me, he's like, have you ever seen the show Billions? And I was like, look, dude, I get it. One philosophy is I'm in it for myself. The other philosophy is I'm in it to serve others, right? And I shared with him that what will happen long term, which is really what judgment is like what's best for long term, is that if he keeps that philosophy, he's essentially surrounding himself with low-level players, and it will radically inhibit his growth, right? And that's really what we're talking about, isn't it?
Yeah, it's crazy too, because he may think that he's comfortable and that that's where he wants to be, but true happiness, true success is always found in the service of others.
Yeah.
And it's like he's robbing himself without even knowing it of joy and fulfillment and peace that you'll never have in that motto. You always be scared about where the people are at and are they gonna like leave you, and it just gets messy. And it was, part of my story was like before I joined EXP, I was ready to leave the real estate industry. Even as successful as we were with the company that we had and making a very, very great living, I was ready to turn my back on it because I was tired of being stuck in that cage. And we come over to this and we get to inspire and help people and share the knowledge that we have and meet them where they are. And maybe they are an agent and they just want to sell more homes. Great. Maybe they are a team leader who's struggling to make profit. Great. Maybe they are a seasoned team leader that's doing well but doesn't really have an exit plan. Great. Let's help them where they are. And I think that the real estate coaching industry has been an amazing industry for so many years because there's a need for that. And we're able to provide that need at no cost to our people, which is really exciting to me. And I think at this point, like it's never going back. It's the way it's going to be forward. And as the industry catches up to this new way of doing business, it's just going to be an exciting journey for those of us that stepped up early and get to lead people. And I'm excited about the future.
Yeah, me too, man. Very excited. So, and in that vein where you were saying like they're all coming to the same conclusion, we talked about at the event.
I loved your presentation.
And I was talking about this thing called a Schelling point in game theory, which states that if you have two competitors and they're not speaking to one another, there's zero communication, with a high degree of probability they'll oftentimes converge on the same thing without talking to each other. And we looked at some stats, how like the net kind of retained dollar to company retained dollar to brokerages has gone from 50% 50 years ago to down to like 10, 11%.
Yeah.
And that's just a fact. And that there's 120,000 brokers in the United States and 70% of them have less than 10 agents. That's also a fact. So what I kind of see happening is that we're all converging due to these outside factors. We're all converging on the same thing without speaking to each other.
Yeah.
Which is we have to get rid of staff and space, because that's the only way you remain profitable when margins go down so much.
That's right.
It's the last thing to get rid of, and they're the highest expenses. And we've already done that. EXP's already done that, and it's converging to models that give more back to agents with equity or like rev share. So when I hear Glenn say, yeah, like in 10 years, 50% of all agents will be with cloud-based brokerages, I see why he's saying that.
Yeah.
I see what he's seeing.
I actually think it's going to happen in less time than that because the compression on the market right now is going to accelerate that happening. But certainly within that time frame, I think that's super realistic. So yeah, it's just good to be with other people that I enjoy doing business with and just seeing what you guys are doing. And I'm excited about your next wave of growth, and just seeing other people get there is like super fulfilling to me. I was recently, before I came in here, I was skiing in Whistler with my sponsor, AJ. And, I can tell he's like super excited to see where I'm at.
Yeah.
And like, I'm getting to experience that through you now. And like together, we're just all moving forward. And it's given us a fulfillment and a freedom that didn't exist to us outside of this industry, outside of this model.
Yeah, and I can attest to what it is that you're saying, because I can hear people like, come on, bro. Like, you guys really help each other. Well, what's wild is like, I didn't pay you to come here.
Nope.
Like, your time is super valuable. You were out on a trip with like, your boys, like hanging out, and you flew in and got in really late and gave an awesome presentation, and you're here talking to me now. So like, and I'm also aware, like, if I ever have a question, like, you always get back to me same day.
Yeah.
Right?
Well, what you're trying to do right now is you're trying to explain to somebody that may be listening or watching to this, like, this is real, this is how it is. But it's like one of those things, like we always say, is like, you'll never really understand it until you experience it. Like, I'm here because I feel blessed and grateful, and like, there's like very little things that I can do that are more business exciting for me than like helping you do what, you know, this model allows you to do.
Yeah.
But yeah, nobody paid me to be here. I'm here because I want to be.
Yeah.
And I'm excited about it. And so many people have helped me along the way, like people that aren't even in my organization. It's like that collaboration piece, right? Like we all own part of this company collectively together, and we all want to see it grow and see it thrive and like take it to the next level.
It's dope. Well, I'm proud to be in partnership with you, bro.
Yeah, man. You too.
I didn't know what to do at the listing presentation.
So I think that this will help a lot of people, bro. So the best way to prepare for a listing appointment is to ask the seller some questions.
So notice there, like I didn't ask permission. I'm like, we're doing this and I'm going to be quick. I think a lot of people use pre-qual in the wrong way. They use it as disqualification, right? And that's not really...
It's all about the motivation right there. Look, I literally just told you like 3 seconds ago that I'm moving to Arizona.
See, a lot of agents spend so much time spinning their wheels on people that aren't certain about what they want to do yet. Welcome back, Novello Nation, to another episode of the Aaron Novello podcast. On this episode, myself and my boy, Mr. Jose Luis Morales, are going to have an in-depth conversation about how to prepare for the listing appointment, right? And what I'm aware of is, you know, preparing for a listing appointment is critically important if you want to be effective and efficient. According to the Association of Realtors, if an agent goes on 100 listing presentations, they only actually take 20 listings. And that's pretty interesting. It's only a 20% conversion ratio. Now, my personal conversion ratio is about 80, 85%. I know Jose's is similar. And, you know, we worked on that over an extended period of time as he was coming up in the game. And now he's a listing machine. So, you know, I'm excited to have this conversation and add value to the community. How about you, Jose?
I'm excited too, because I think it'll help a lot of people. I remember back in the day, bro, when I used to get a listing appointment, I would be so nervous because I didn't know how to prepare for the listing appointment, or I didn't know what to do at the listing presentation. So I think that this will help a lot of people, bro. So
yeah, 100%. What comes to mind, I remember having conversations with you, you know, when we first started working together, where you felt like, man, I'm like half the presentations I'm having to go back a second time. Right. And it was just not it was like inefficient. You had the hustle, you had the will. It was just that you're spinning your wheels a lot, right? Going on a lot of these presentations and not getting the desired outcome. And once we made a little tweaks, right? One of them specifically being pre-qualifying upfront so we can gather as much information as possible and also use the pre-qualification in preparation for going on the listing presentation as a mechanism to sell, which we'll get into and kind of assumptively close. Then you started to convert at higher and higher levels. So let's walk through this, bro. When somebody reaches out to us or when we're cold calling and we set an appointment, talk to me about, you know, the preparation that goes into that. So when somebody says like, yeah, come over, do you just like run over right away and you're like, all right, cool, I'll see you at 3?
No, not at all. And I think that's what I used to do at the very beginning. Like somebody would call me or I'd call them. They're like, hey, I want to sell my property. And I'd want to go over there immediately. But the best way to prepare for a listing appointment is to ask the seller some questions. Some people call it to pre-qualify the seller. Some people call it like an input. I've heard it like, they're like, oh, I have an input form where I ask the sellers a series of questions. So basically, the best way that I learned how to prepare for a listing appointment is to pre-qualify the seller, ask them a series of questions about their situation so that you know what you can do to be a best service to them. So it starts off with a transition. Like let's say that you set the appointment. So there's a 5-step listing process, and we went over that in our last video. Step number 1, you set the appointment. Incoming call, outbound call, set the appointment. Step number 2, you pre-qualify them, meaning you ask them that series of questions. Step number 3, you send a pre-listing package, meaning some information, which we'll cover in this video. Step number 4, you call to confirm. And step number 5, you present. You follow this process, it increases the chances of you taking the listing, and it also improves your listing presentation ratio, meaning based on how many listings you're going on, how many of you're taking, and how many of them are you taking on the first try. So the pre-qualification starts with transitioning from setting the appointment to transitioning to the script. This is the way I usually like to do it. I say, well, look, Aaron, before I come out, there are a number of questions I need to ask you. I just want to make sure that I'm fully prepared for our meeting and I could really be a best service to you. Is it okay if I ask those questions now? And my intention in asking that in that manner is that the series of questions is really all about them and helping them achieve their goals and helping them get closer to whatever it is that they want to do. So Aaron, walk us through, man, what happens after you transition, bro?
Yeah. So, and I love that. And as I'm getting ready to walk through, I'm more than happy to do that. When I asked you, like, hey, when somebody calls and just says like, or you're make an outbound call and you book an appointment, do you just automatically go out? Your eyes got really big and you looked at me like, that's ridiculous. Like, why would I ever do that? Right. So it's important for people to understand that when me and Jose are saying that we do this every single time, it is absolutely every single time without exception. Right. Because in my professional experience, in those times when I imagined that I was going to make an exception, it never ends up working out in my favor, and it's not a productive use of time. So if we're either making outbound calls or it's an inbound call and we book an appointment, in preparation for connecting, Jose, I just have a couple really quick questions to ask you just to make sure that I'm fully prepared and I could be of the best assistance to you and your family. And I'll be brief because I know your time is valuable. So notice there, like I didn't ask permission. I'm like, we're doing this and I'm going to be quick, right? So then we can transition. And they're like, sure, right? And in my mind, the way that I'm thinking about this in pre-qualification, I think a lot of people use pre-qual in the wrong way. They use it as disqualification, right? And that's not really the purpose of pre-qual. The purpose of pre-qual is to gather information, the who, what, where, when, why, and how with regards to this prospective move. And also use it as a mechanism to gather, potential objections that may come up, things that you have to be prepared for when you meet with them, whether they're going to meet with another agent, whether they're going to ask you about the professional fee or the length of the agreement or things of that nature, or what are you going to do to market the home? And then also a little bit more advanced as we start to assumptively close and move things forward. So once we say that phrase to transition, then they're like, sure. And then I start to systematically ask questions. And in everybody's mind that's watching this, I want you to think about this as though there's like a door and it leads to another room. And we don't leave one door until we don't leave one room until we are complete in one of the rooms. And what the rooms are motivation, time, and decision makers. So what's the specific motivation? So once they say okay to asking, sure, like it's okay, ask me questions. So the first question I have, Jose, is I'm very familiar with your geographic area. I'm sure your home is lovely, right? Hopefully I'm not being too straightforward. Was there any particular reason you and your family were even considering selling? And what is that question around, Jose?
It's all about the motivation right there. That's getting into the motivation now. What it comes up to me when we talk about motivation, and this is where some people get caught up, they'll read a script and the script will say, when you sell this home, where are you moving to next? But like, if you already talked about that in the appointment, like you may not have to like say, hey, Jose, like when you sell this property, where are you moving to next? Because they might be like, Jose, look, I literally just told you like 3 seconds ago that I'm moving to Arizona. Instead, you can rephrase the question and say, well, look, Jose, I know that when we spoke, you were kind enough to mention to me that you're looking to move to Arizona because you want to be out and be closer to family. Is that correct? Mm-hmm. Yes, that is correct.
Perfect. And then right behind that, to dig into motivation, a question like, well, and tell me, because my job is to help you. It's never to talk you into doing anything. Is it an option for you, Jose, to not sell this home and still move? Like maybe like rent it or just keep it as a secondary home? And then quiet, because I don't want to leave that room of motivation yet until I'm clear that the motivation is very strong. Because as we're taping this, we're in an environment in which economically things are changing, and it's going to become very, very important. One of the key critical skills that we need as agents is this ability to pre-qualify at a high level and to be able to kind of flesh out 8, 9s, and 10s in motivation. Because if it's not a compelling kind of reason as to why they're going to sell some sort of life event, then they're probably not going to be willing to put up with a difference in market dynamics and perhaps a difference in their expectations as to how much they're going to be receiving on their home versus what they could have got, 6 to 12 months ago.
Now, this is another thing. Like, you have to be listening to when you're having the conversation with their client. Like, let's say in the appointment, they tell you, oh, this is a rental property for me, or this is a property that is an estate. You're not going to say, Jose, once you sell this property, where are you moving to next? Because that doesn't make any sense, you know? And I hear that all the time.
Do you remember when we were like
things.
Yeah, do you remember we were role playing one time and I was like, Jose, and you're like, what? I'm like, you have a really good brain, bro. And you're like, uh-huh. I'm like, you should use it. And you were like, whoa, because you were doing that.
Because you get so caught up in like, okay, what does the script say next? Instead of like, okay, he already told me that this is an investment property for him and that, or that this is an estate. So you have to ask yourself, what you're really looking for is the motivation. And there's different ways to dig for this motivation. So if I'm talking to somebody that owns a rental property, instead of saying, where are you moving to next? I'm going to say, well, once you sell this property, are you looking to reinvest the proceeds into something else? Or are you just looking to cash out on this investment? What am I looking for right there? I'm looking for motivation. So if they say, I'm looking to reinvest the proceeds, I may ask like, okay, great. And once you do that, are you looking to reinvest those proceeds here locally? Or are you looking to move that money somewhere else? No, I'm actually looking to move it out of California. Okay, great. Now I've got some sort of sense as to what the motivation is. I can continue to dig deeper on that. Or if they say, no, look, I'm just looking to cash out, you may ask like, okay, great. And if you don't mind me asking, like why cash out on the property and why not just keep the property as a rental property? I mean, or you can say like, well, Jose, gosh, it sounds like a great rental property. I mean, it sounds like it's been producing tons of cash flow for you. Like, why not keep it versus cashing out? And then I'm like, well, look, I'm really tired of being the landlord. I'm tired of like having to manage this property. I want to simplify my life. Boom. What does that give you? Motivation. Starts to give you the reason why they want to do what they want to do.
That's exactly right. And when you break that word down, motivation, it's motive to take action. It's a reason for doing something. And it was interesting because as you're speaking, those exact things were coming up for me. It's like, well, you know, I imagine this has been a really good rental for you. And I know the rental market's, you know, been very strong over the last 12 months. So hopefully I'm not being too straightforward. Was there any particular reason that you wanted to cash out versus just continuing to be a landlord? And then quiet. And they'll tell you, well, you know, like I got maxed out depreciation. I got to cash out and move on to something else. Okay, cool. And is your intention to do a 1031 exchange and then repurchase something else? Or are you just cashing out completely? So what me and Jose are demonstrating to you is we want to get very, very clear on the why first, motivation, right? The motive to take action, the reason why somebody's doing something. And personally, I'm not going to move on to my next line of questioning, which is around time, until I'm clear on that.
The other thing I wanted to point out, bro, is I've seen other scripts, and this is not me talking bad about anything else, but the way that we're teaching you guys to do it is I've seen other scripts that are like, the first question that they start off with is, if what I say makes sense and you feel comfortable and confident that I can sell your home, are you planning to list your home with me? And sometimes that's too direct of a question for some people. I remember when I would ask that, people would be like, well, Jose, look, I haven't even met you. I don't even know what you look like. I don't know anything about you. And it may come off like it's too strong. So the reason I like to start off as motivation is it gives me a little bit of time to better understand their situation. I'm still going to ask the question, if what I say makes sense, are you planning to list it with me? I'm just going to ask it at a different time instead of asking it at the very beginning, because it gives me a little bit of time to fully understand their situation and almost like make it more about them than about me.
100%.
And that's what you want to do.
And that's the key right there, is that it flips it, right? When I begin to ask questions about Jose and what he's looking to accomplish and why, and specifically why it's important to him at this stage in his life that he accomplish a particular goal or objective, what I'm doing is I'm coming from a place of contribution where my intention is to serve. If I lead with a question that's about taking, it's about me, that is very indicative of what my intention is. My intention is to take. It's not to serve. So we're still going to ask that question. We're just going to ask it in a different way that's more palatable, and we're going to ask it towards the end of the conversation, right? And I think that's a critical point for people to be aware of, because the tendency for a lot of people is to lead with I, me, and what's in it for me. And I think that's backwards. And to your point where it's like, hey, you know, if what I say makes sense and you feel comfortable, you plan to listen to me when I see you tonight at 6. That's like going on a blind date, knocking on the door and being like, hi, are we going to smash tonight? It's like, what? Like, I don't even know you, bro. Like, we didn't even have a conversation. We haven't gone out to dinner yet. Like we didn't even like, you know, like relax. You know what I'm saying? You got to build a little rapport first, right?
Yeah.
So, you know, we wouldn't do that in other areas. So it's like, well, why are we doing it here, right? So once we're clear on motivation and we're asking a lot of digging questions around motivation, and a key phrase there is, you know, my intention is to help you. It's never to talk you into doing anything. So is it an option for you to not sell this home and still move? Maybe like rent it out or move, because I want to get that clarity. I see a lot of agents spend so much time spinning their wheels on people that aren't certain about what they want to do yet. And what's true is that the bad leads or warm leads, okay leads, they hide the great ones. They hide the people that are like, Jose, I'm definitely selling. I want to get on the market in 30 days. It's not an option for me not to sell.
You know, I thought was cool. The lady who had that, I guess the affirmation that she says every morning is live every day as if it were your last.
Cat Williams said that. He's like, yo, if you can at the end of each day before you go to bed, you're like, all right, this could be the last one. You look around, you're like, how's it all looking?
I did good today.
Is that good? Yeah. All right, guys. The quote that I got too, which I'm going to talk about in the Bible study, is the well that I drink from is the well that I leak out. That was dope. And because the way I've heard that is like what's in your heart is what'll come out. Yeah. But it's another way of saying that.
In here is what's going to go out here.
So if this is shit in here,
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
then this is what we're gonna get.
We all have people that we know that they call you, look at the phone, and you're like, we all have them. They're like, you know, the negative Nellies. There's 99 great things out there, and then there's one bad thing that happens, and they focus on that one bad thing instead of the 99 other things that happen that are great.
That leadership's really about like different levels of consciousness. To me is like a victim mentality. Why is this happening to me, right? It's thinking that like your success and your happiness is dependent on external things. By me is like, if it's to be, it's up to me. And instead of asking the question, why is this happening to me? It's, how is this happening for me? Which one of the guys talked about. Right. What he's talking about is the difference in consciousness. And then the third level of consciousness is through me. So it's this awareness that there's something that's bigger than you. That could be God, that could be love, that could be the quantum field, that could be something that wants to accomplish something through you, right? And in the book, it said that 95% of the population spends 98% of their time into me. Yeah. If you look at the news, it's a perfect example of that. It's like, this bad thing is happening. It's happening to you. Here's the people responsible. You're right. They're wrong. Right? So our goal as leaders, for the most part, is to get as many people in our orbit from to me to by me. By me, which is like, I co-create with my environment. And if it's to be, it's up to me. Because the bridge that gets you from to me to by me is responsibility.
I was just going to say that.
It's
at
radical.
The core of what you're saying is accepting and assuming complete 100% responsibility.
Yeah, it's like extreme ownership, like Dr. Higgins. Now, do you know what the bridge is from by me to through me? Surrender and letting go. And here's why it's so hard. Everybody at this table spent a lot of time with by me, which is personal responsibility and extreme ownership, which gives us control. Where you get so good at something, you can kind of do it at will. Well, in order to get to through me, two things need to happen. One is I need to have a belief or a faith in something that's bigger than me. And two, I have to be willing to surrender that control and let it go, which is incredibly fucking difficult. Incredibly difficult once you've kind of gained that. So I think for most people, our job as leaders for people in the organization is to get the majority of as many as we can from to me to by me, which is personal responsibility. That's the bridge. So often on coaching calls, I'll ask people if they present to me something that's not favorable. I'll say like, well, I'm curious, how is this happening for you? What is this preparing you for? What are you learning from this? So I was on a call with a woman who was like, you know, there's a deal and it's like going sideways. We got to get brokers of all this stuff. I'm like, okay, well, let me ask you a question. She's like, yeah. I'm like, how did you contribute to it escalating? And she was like, no, it's the other agent. I'm like, okay, that's cool. You didn't answer my question. And my intention in saying this is like, I'm not trying to blame you. I think it's a good learning opportunity. Because if you want to have 15, 20 pendings at one time, you need to be emotionally intelligent. You need to be the calming force in a deal. You can't be getting worked up all the time. So I'll ask you again, How did you contribute to it escalating? Did you say something to the other agent? Did you send a snippy email? What did you do? She's like, well, now that you say that, yeah, I think I may have had a conversation with the agent, and I also I want everybody to be happy, so I overpromised it. So you create it by overpromising, and then people get pissed off. I'm like, yeah. Well, good. Well, now that you're aware of it, you can do something about it. And I'm curious, where does the need to overpromise come from? What's underneath it? What are you afraid of? You're afraid people are going to be mad at me, and they don't like me.
Yeah.
That's what's underneath it. But do you see it? By asking that question, what I'm really trying to do is to change our consciousness. Right. It's to go from to me, victim, all these other people are assholes. Because I told her on the call, I'm like, look, if everybody's an asshole you interact with, one or two things are true. Either they're all assholes or you're the asshole. What's more probable? Legit.
That they're the assholes.
Is it more probable that 10 people are assholes or you're the asshole?
It's the common denominator in this whole thing. Yeah. It's not them. It's you.
It's always us.
By walking her through that, I'm doing a couple things. One is conflict resolution, but two is I'm also helping to change her level of awareness.
So I forgot where I read this. There's 3 types of people in the world, and most of humans operate on the first, which is they don't know that they don't know. And when you don't know, you're kind of just meandering through life. You're working for Friday at 5 o'clock, spend most of the money that you just earned that week in the bars or wherever doing non-productive things. Sunday comes, you get the Sunday scaries, you go to work and do it all over again at a job you probably don't even like. Then there's people that know that they don't know. They know there's something bigger out there. They know that maybe what they're doing isn't what's necessarily their true calling, but they don't know what it is. So they start to question. And getting from the first to that part is the biggest bridge. And then when you get to that, then the third level is you know that you know, which is what it sounds like it's what we're talking about.
Yeah, and what you maybe just remember is Rick taught me something called inner trekking. And he said as a guide or as a coach, that's really what you're doing. It's like you're going on a trek together. And he said this has been happening for humans for as long as they've been around, which is the first thing is I don't know what I want. That's the first part of the inner trek. The second part is I know what I want and it's outside of me. The next one is I know what I want and it's outside of me and I got it. The next one is I know what I want, it's outside of me, I got it, and it still feels like something's missing. And then the next one is I know what I want and it's inside of me. And then I start to go inward, right? And that's the progression. That's the progression. So I know what I want and it's 100 deals. And then you do 100 deals and you're still anxious, worried, scared. I'm scared I'm going to lose all the money, scared I'm going to lose the skills, scared it's going to all disappear. And then instead of continuing down the inner trekking path, you're like, you know what?
Maybe I need to do more.
That's the answer. I got to go to 150 or 200 and then it'll go away. And then you do that and it still doesn't go away. So it's I know what I want. It's outside of me. I got it. And there still feels like there's something missing. Then it's hey, I actually know what I want and it's not outside of me. So let me start the inner trekking to find it where it actually is, which is really what we're talking about, isn't it? Which is because to accept oneself is to be centered from within.
It's work. It's just inner work is work. It takes time because you have to be vulnerable and authentic, really more vulnerable to what you're going to discover. You may not like what you discover about yourself. At least that was true for me. For all the years that we've been working, we've been fucking peeling this onion for years and years and years. And now, only in the last, 3-4 months, have we got to the relational part.
The perfect example of the bamboo tree, where it's you water it for 5 years and literally nothing fucking happens. Yeah. And that's not what happened with him. But
is that how the coaching calls felt?
Yeah. No, that's not what happened with him. But meaning, I was talking about the bamboo tree, not him. But this idea that you're watering and you're fertilizing and you're watering and you're fertilizing just to get a little sprout. What's nuts is within 90 days, that turns into a 90-foot tree. Yeah. So the vast majority of all the growth that we seek, there's a saying that says it usually take longer than you think and cost more than what you thought. And that number seems to be kind of in nature, 5 to 7. And I think that's how long it takes to get to 10,000 iteration. Not 10,000 hours, 10,000 iterations. Right? Attempts where you're just tinkering. And now I believe what's starting to happen for you is you're starting to be like the bamboo. Once the little sprout happens, now it's a rocket ship. Really quick. People are God damn, you're an overnight sensation. Grab a calculator for me. I want you to type in fucking, whatever it is, 18 years.
Yeah.
Fucking, I don't even know how many posts, thousands of posts, 4,000 listing appointments, like 10,000 hours of prospecting. You know what I mean?
It all goes back to mastery.
Yeah.
We live most of our time on the plateau. Exactly. We live on it.
Particularly when I'm impatient.
And you're growth oriented.
And I'm growth oriented.
Yes.
It's very hard to be on a plateau.
Yes.
And the plateau might be for a year. Yeah. It might be for 3 months. It might be for 5 years.
Bro.
But usually the reason why I'm on a plateau, often in my experience, is either there's a skill I need to learn, there's a limiting belief, right? So there's a skill I need to learn, or there's like some sort of limiting belief that's causing me to stay on the plateau. So in other words, like, I feel like I was on a plateau, and this isn't making about me, which brain thing. I was on a plateau. I was doing 150 deals, coaching like 30 people one-on-one, 60, 70 in groups. I did that for 2 years, but that was a long plateau. Yeah. And people might be like, yeah, you're crushing it, but it was a plateau. I'm doing the same shit all the time. Right. What was getting in the way of another level was new skills I had to learn, limiting belief, understanding leverage, understanding media. You see? Yeah. That's what causes you to stay on a plateau. Yes. And sometimes your plateau is sweet. Making $300,000 a year, working fucking 20 hours a week is pretty sweet. Yeah. It's a solid, like, it's not a bad plateau, but your comfort keeps you from your calling. And I think business is so unrelenting and uncompromisingly aggressive in evolution that if you want to play the game, you must constantly be evolving and grow. Otherwise, you will not be able to deal with the onslaught. Like uncompromising, unbiased. Winning doesn't care. It's unbiased.
Gene said, people told me I was crazy to sell my region and to sell 6 offices. Right. Because he said, I knew that I was comfortable and on a plateau, and that wasn't going to take me anywhere.
Reminds me of the guy that gave up the 100 listings and the 42 pending.
Yeah.
I mean, 97 active and 42 pending.
Yeah.
And he gave all that up to move.
Well, I got one deal. I got to wait till it closes. Yeah. So I lost $42,000 on shares and I capped twice. But it's interesting because then it's like, but that's a demonstration of what? Belief, trust in yourself. And you'll notice that a lot of the people who produce very favorable outcomes, they're willing to do that. They are willing to sacrifice. You did do that. You did the same thing. You sold back, lost money. You did that. So I think what's interesting is like this awareness. That's you I'm talking about. Yeah. The numbers might be different, but it's the same thing.
I shared with you that the initial time when I first decided to make the switch, I didn't do any research like you did. It wasn't because of what I knew. I didn't discover the value of this platform until I was here for 6-8 months. It was because he saw something in me that I couldn't see. He saw it, so I trusted, and I made the move based on that. And now I have to trust for myself.
Yeah, the reason why I started laughing, because I feel like, and I'm very appreciative of that, of your trust, is that now I feel like you come to these events, you're like, oh man, this is fantastic. I'm like, yeah, I know. Holy shit, man, I didn't know this was this good. I'm like, yeah, it is.
And knowing for myself is where the sprout's going to grow 90 feet.
It's patience. It's patience.
Knowing for yourself.
Yeah.
Massive levels of action.
When you get like, how many times did I call you? Be like, you're all like, shit ain't happening, man. How many phone calls do we have?
Where he was like, I don't know, dude. Like, I haven't really tried anybody. Blah blah blah. But then I had a.
Well, even before, even years ago. Working, man. Like, how many times did we everything was patience.
It's patience. Patience. Because you're growth oriented. And what I was referring to is even with the attraction thing. And then I had a strong conversation with him. I'm like, well, bro, what are you doing? And he was like, well, not much. I'm like, all right, so then what are we talking about? I was like, dude, you start doing events. And he was like, okay. I'm like, you start doing a fucking podcast already. Because I've been telling you to do it for a while. He's like, okay. Yeah. And now he's doing both. And both are the main mechanisms for attraction for you. And then once you started to get serious, you went from 0 to what?
11 now.
In how long?
Realistically, 5 months.
Right. So like once he got serious, it was like, okay.
All the family stuff got out of the way and like worked itself out. I could like lock in and focus.
What's required.
Yeah. Yeah.
So there was a thing there that said like something like champions don't do what they love. They learn to love what's required. It's just what's required. If I'm a professional marketer, network marketer, and I get paid to market the product to the end consumer, which is agents, I should be doing events and media aggressively because that's my job.
But I feel like your foot in the door is skills. The foot in the door to get people into the room that you're hosting. What are you offering them? Exactly.
You're doing it, and now it's like a refinement where you have that skill. Yes. You don't have to think about that. No. Now, how do you present that skill? Yeah. That's another layer. And as you acquire these skills, you make yourself more valuable to your orbit. And then you can equip them with those skills, right?
Powerful year, man. 2024. Within what, we had the gala. Now we have this is a powerful year for us. The Elite Builders. Are you kidding? And then we're going to DR. I was like just like a hour.
And then we have the XPCon in Miami. October. I don't know the exact dates. It's in October. And we'll do something. We'll rent a boat. Or we'll rent like an Airbnb. It'll be dope.
If you're a shitty marketer, you have to become a world-class salesperson. For 15 years of my career, because of the instruction I was getting, didn't pay attention to marketing at all, so I turned myself into the Michael Jordan of selling real estate. I could list 100 homes a year. I did that 10 years in a row. Did 200 deals a year twice because I didn't understand this. But if you understand this, I can make $1 million a year being a world-class salesperson. I can make $10 million a year doing this. So you just got to be all the way in, and you got to see the value, and you got to be willing to, because here's the other thing I'm noticing is that the barrier to entry is getting bigger. So it used to be you could just flip your camera on and talk, and that worked. That doesn't work anymore. You have to have captions. It has to be quality video, right? If you watch YouTube shorts, it's got to get attention. You have to edit it proper. Like, the barrier to entry is getting harder. And I think it's only going to increase. Because this gentleman said it's the new TV. I believe that that's true. But will you watch a shitty show on TV that has shitty camera and shitty lighting and somebody on there that's going,
"Hi, this is the 5 ways to do an inspection"?
You will not, right? So and you can get into this inexpensively. If you go on to Fiverr, you'll find people who can edit your videos. And yet, spend a little on a camera, and it's consistency over time. So it took me a year. I went from 2,000 followers to just close to 10,000 now. I went from touching 8,000 accounts to 250, 250,000. That is 4 football stadiums worth of people watching me every month. I can sell lots of things, right? So you just gotta really buy into it. The tools that you need. You don't really need more than your phone. iPhones are ridiculous, right? But you need a camera, you need some lighting, you need a microphone. Stop shooting videos without microphones. They cost $25 on Amazon. It's a little lapel mic, you stick it here, it'll make you sound like a rock star. If your video is crappy, people won't watch. Doesn't matter if your audio is crappy, they won't watch. So you need a little microphone, it costs $25. You already have the phone in your pocket. You need ideas. Now, the interesting part about ideas is people think they have to create all this stuff. You don't, you could just document what you're doing. It's documentation. The way I started this is when I was setting appointments, I would just flip the camera on and record it. That's it. I'm not doing, you do cool shit all the time. Nobody can see you do it. Right? So flip the camera on, have the presence of mind. Oh, I can flip the camera on right now and just record this, right? And then I need someone to edit, chop, and post. If you're serious, if you want to go all the way in. Because there's some people in the room that still do it themselves. I'd say everybody in the room still does it themselves. Except people that are all the way in, which is like 3 in the room of everybody else. But you start to think with your DIY mentality, because 65% of us came from parents that live paycheck to paycheck, I'm going to figure out how to edit this myself. Good for you. And after 6 months and you post fucking very little, I'll be at like 20,000 and you'll be at like 300, right? So you don't need that much. Cumulatively, between this might cost $300 a month. Somebody to send you ideas, roughly, that could probably be included. The microphone and this. And then it's just consistency. It's volume over time. Most people don't produce 1% outcomes because they drastically underestimate the volume of activity that's required over an extended period of time. So if I told you you could get all the attention that you want, which equals, but you had to post 4 times a day for the next 10 years, would you do it? Yes. Yeah, you guys say that shit. You can also, there's this thing called ChatGPT, where you could say, hey, act like a real estate agent, a top producing real estate agent in Plantation, Florida, and give me 10 videos that people would want to see. And it'll go, and then you could go, now act like Mr. Beast and give me the titles and the thumbnails for those videos. And it'll go, and you'd be like, act like a TV producer and give me the actual script for each one of those videos. And it'll go, guys, there's no excuse, none. It's just insecurity, fear, and I'm not all the way in. I don't understand its value because the things that you make time for things that are important. Do you brush your teeth every day? Mm-hmm. Why? Because it's important. You ever like, nah, screw that brush teeth thing? Do you do that with this though?
Yeah.
And the real reason so you tell yourself this story that it's all these other things when it really is you're just insecure about it. That's all it is, right? So here's with ChatGPT. I'm a residential realtor in city state with a YouTube channel. I create videos to educate people on buying and selling in blank. And I explain what it is to live in blank. Please write an 8-minute video outline for blank. It does it for you. Can it be any easier, guys? Now this is $1 million right here, okay? All the ideas you need for a whole year. What's the cost of living in Plantation, Florida in 2023? Pros and cons of living in Plantation, Florida in 2023. Next things you need to know before you move to Plantation, Florida in 2023. Guys, this is gold. If you haven't taken a picture of this shit, like, all you guys are like, I would watch that shit, yeah. Does $500,000 get you in Weston in 2023?
Nothing.
Yeah. A shack, like an outhouse. What does X amount give you in sub-community? But this is, bro, if you do this, these are all your videos. And by the way, you could just interchange the year and repeat, rinse and repeat next year. Do you see? You have everything you need. But now it's just a matter of this, you declaring that this is important. Now, I want to share with you a few things because I know that this is also something. Look, perfectionism is the fear, that says objection, it's wrong. Perfection is the fear of failure in disguise. Perfectionism is the fear of failure in disguise. You're just afraid of failing. And it's unfortunate that in our modern school systems, we still have this environment in which if you mess up, what happens? You get punished. That's fucking stupid because the way we learn is by messing up. When you learned how to walk, did you get slapped on the wrist because you fell down? Can you imagine? How many people have children? Can you imagine as they were walking, like the first time they stand up and fell down, you're like, God damn it, what's wrong with you, bro? Like, seriously, man? By the way, does that baby read the 10 ways how to walk? How do they learn? How many times do they fall down? Thousands. Takes like to a year for them to figure it out. Because how does it start? First they stand up, fall down, cry. Stand up, fall down, cry. That happens for months. Then they stand up, remember when they hold this and you're like, oh, they hold onto the table. Then what happens? Fall on their face. Then they stand up and they're like, boom, fall down. And then one day they go, oh, and it's like, oh, they fall down. It takes a while. But perfectionism is the fear of failure in disguise. And the other thing you guys are deathly afraid of, which I know is true, is getting feedback from people. I'm going to read the comments. Actually, I'll pick somebody to read the comments. So this post got 76,000 views. Okay, I want you to understand something. That is 90% the Miami Dolphins stadium filled with people watching. Okay? Who wants to read the shitty comments? This is great. Let's pick some here. Yeah, I was going to have Natalie read, but you can read. You have a big voice. I need you to stand up and read. Okay. Just scroll down and read all the comments, okay? So with this one right there. Loud and proud.
Okay. Hung up with all that extra talking too scripted. I have hung up before while I have you on the phone. While I have you on the phone, click. A motivated seller wouldn't be complaining about getting too many calls. I love when people say, I appreciate that. No, you don't. Mostly good, but as a high D, you talk too much. After the first sentence, you lost me. Jesus Christ, I would have hung up so fast. Best way to make money in real estate is to sell courses to real estate agents, which you responded, and to sell 2,000 homes in your
Because the person who wrote that is sitting in their mom's basement playing video games.
They would have hung up long ago. Great job. Solid, and I like it. If he actually removes people from the list as promised, if they tell him off. Otherwise, he's just another lying sales guy. I would have hung up 1,000,000 times. It's actually embarrassing how hard they try. This conversation ended the second I found out I didn't ask for the call.
Hate is inverted admiration. You know what they're really saying to me? I fucking wish I could do that. But you guys let it stop you. Why should I care what somebody in their basement thinks? Why? You know what I mean? Like, I find it so unbelievable that instead of reaching out to me and asking me questions, look, Jack Harlow has a verse in one of his songs. He's like, look, when everybody loves you, there's only one way to stand out, which is to throw stones. You understand? Like, you guys have to just get past this. You all have gifts and abilities that you're not sharing because you're afraid of somebody saying that your beard is fucking whack, or I don't like your shirt, or you know what you're talking about, or your hairline's too high, or like what. Who cares? In the Bible, it says if there's a lamp that's lit, you don't put it in a closet. Put it on a table so it can shine light to everybody. Stop putting your lamp in the closet because you're afraid of what people will say, okay? With that, I will open it up for a few questions, comments, concerns, if you guys have any, with regards to everything that we discussed today. Yes?
I'm one of those guys with like 800 followers on social media.
Yeah.
I'm not scared of the camera.
Yeah.
There's definitely maybe some insecurities about not getting likes and follows, and I
Yeah.
feel like about really good content.
Sure.
And getting like 60 likes.
Yeah.
And it's kind of bullshit. Being said, I really want to get into podcasts.
Yeah.
I started building out an area in my home to do this.
Good.
Full candor. I have a real estate license.
Yeah.
My bread and butter is mortgage.
Sure.
I own a mortgage company. I want to get started with a podcast, and the idea of starting a YouTube channel with nobody following it and getting 0 views and putting hours and hours into this podcast, I don't know where to start.
I appreciate your authenticity and your honesty, because I know that, look, there's heads nodding, like your experience is true for everybody. Story's one, story's ball. Right. So I had 245 episodes. I was 45 episodes deep with 250 subscribers. Just kept doing it. Now I currently have almost 1,500 subscribers. I don't know if you know this either. Only like 20 million channels out of 150 million have more than 1,000 subscribers. You know, podcasts, like something stupid, like 60% of them never get past the first episode. What I've learned is it's really about, if I go on there and I add value,
right,
a lot, like tremendous amounts of value, then over time through consistency, it'll come, it'll grow. So like I could have easily stopped, and it hasn't been till recently, but the other thing I was doing, which was wrong, I didn't have anybody editing any of my stuff. So if you look at my thumbnails from a year ago, they were bad. Now they're good. I didn't have anybody editing with captions. I didn't understand.
In the US or offshore?
They're out of the country, but they
do good work.
They do awesome work. Yeah, if you're interested, just DM me. Like I'll give you access to the company. But let's say you're watching a YouTube. People's attention spans have been obliterated because of TikTok. So you have to edit the beginning of a YouTube like a TikTok. So I start off podcasts. I used to be like, hey guys, welcome back to the Novello podcast. When you do that, I watched on the analytics, 60% of the people fall off. They just disappear because it's boring. Instead, I just interviewed my personal trainer and I said, chicken, something that is a staple in so many people's diets, is actually really inflammatory to their system. That's something people are like, what? What do you mean? Chicken's bad for me. I eat that shit all the time.
So do I.
So, but you see how it captures your attention, and we edit it that way at the beginning. And what I've realized is like, there's like a 10-foot wall to get past in 30 seconds. But if you can get them to watch for 30 seconds, they'll watch for 45 minutes. You just got to get past right? So there's all these different things to learn. So you clearly have the ambition and the passion. I think educating yourself. Again, I got proximity to somebody who's doing it at scale, who gets millions of views every month and has 6 businesses that do over $1 million a year. And social media is the main acquisition channel for him. So I can learn how to do it, but then I need a team. So if you have the equipment, I need a team. Then I need to just focus on adding like as much value as I can, and then understand the equation V over T. It's volume over time. So it's most people, you separate yourself from the pack just by willing to keep going. And then it's just a matter of time. So like I'm just now approaching 10,000, but 2 years ago it was 2,000. But I guarantee you a year from now it'll be like 30. And my future self will be pleased that I kept going. So that's what I would suggest.
We door knock our open houses
Good.
a lot of times, and we used to get flyers out on the door knock, and the back of the page was always blank, so we started adding what's going on in the neighborhood, like micro marketing the neighborhood, what's happening with market status, or what's happening with the park, and invites to what's going on. And they would keep our flyers, and they would come to the open house with our flyers, so we get a lot less people throwing them.
Well, yeah, and here's what I would think, like I would hand them a flyer, but it has a QR code, and the QR code takes them to a video of the community. And write that shit down, bro. See why your boy makes the big bucks, baby. You see, it takes them to a QR code, and then they get to a landing page, and they can put in information for the updates. But on the landing page, it has 3 videos on it. One about a market update, the most recent market update. Another was like the benefits of living in this community, none of that, right? And what you're doing is you now become the expert in the community, hyper-local expert. Any other questions? I think you had a question too, yeah.
In reference to earlier, you were talking about the avatars. But what do you do if like the avatars a wide range of both male and female demographics? How do you make the content to succeed with both?
Yeah, so I think you can still get clear on some demographics as far as like age. We also, like Sonia, she noticed like the majority of people, she's Caribbean, and the majority of people that are moving to Port St. Lucie and buying new construction are Caribbean. Because they all are asking her about culturally
what to do in the area. I'm like, well, they're telling you what content they want. So if you started to produce that content, they would watch, right? So I would just kind of continue to like who's doing the business. And then even if it's like they're grouped together, I can still think to myself, like what are they motivated by? What are they interested in? You know what I mean? I can still start to segment out even as a group if I didn't want to niche it down to gender. Does that make sense? And I think too that if you really get into your, you really get into the analytics, you will see that one emerges more than the other. It's usually not 50-50. That's my experience.
So we both agree that going to closings is an absolute, unequivocal waste of time. Is that right?
Oh, absolutely.
I made a statement, like a declarative statement, that I believe that it's a waste of time for various different reasons.